Welcome back to Whisky Whims with me, Stuart. Today, after last week's break, I think I only had a one video miss break. I was on holiday. So anyway, yeah, after last week's break, we're back on to the reviews. So it's Benrinnes 17-year-old boutique whiskey, which is part of the Atom brand, which is part of Master of Malt and other. They've got a conglomerate of products. So I got this off the auction. I think I paid about £40 for it. It's actually, when it was first released, was about £70. It doesn't have many details on the bottle. It has a little illustration, the quirky illustrations that they used to do. I don't know if boutique is still a thing. I believe it is, because they still seem to do those daft Christmas advent calendars and stuff like that people keep buying into. But there's not a lot of information on these bottles, which is a little bit disappointing. It just goes on about how the illustrations of the labels are hand drawn and how it's got whiskey from, or they bottle whiskey from some of the forgotten drams and forgotten distilleries. So yeah, Benrinnes is one of those forgotten distilleries. A lot of it goes to blend. I quite like a Benrinnes from now to then. I quite like Benrinnes. I don't know what I'm trying to say there. So yeah, I've not drunk a lot of this. It's on the bottom of my shelf. It's in the bottom left hand side of my shelf, which is the most hidden part of the shelf. It's quite hard to see and I don't always notice it's there, just with where it is and the other bottles around it. But yeah, I've spent a little bit of time the last night or so with it, trying to get notes together, because it's been a long time since I have had a dram of this. As you can see, I'm not that far through it, and that is not a commentary on the whiskey itself at all. Like I said, it's just because of the pure location of where it's sitting on my shelf. It's a 50cl bottle, so £70 for a 17-year-old is relatively cheap, but then you factor in the fact that it's a 50cl bottle. Like I said, I got it for £40, so yeah, it's pretty good value for money at that. But well, we'll get down to the nose, the palate and the finish and see if it's a Whisky Win on a whiskey bin. I've not got any water because I don't feel like it needs water. It's 47.6% ABV. The nose, there's like lemon pastry, some sort of kind of, I don't know, lemon crumble or something like that. There's granola with a kind of vanilla fresh, or like a skyr yogurt, but just plain flavour, just vanilla flavour, not any of those fruity flavours or anything like that. There's like a touch of olive oil. I feel like that's quite consistent with Benrinnes as a distillery, quite oily, and olive oil I've had in a few of them. There's vanilla essence, and there's also something quite metallic on the nose. I think this is quite a simple nose, but maybe a little bit difficult for new drinkers, new whiskey drinkers, as it's not as bold and as in your face or as obvious as other whiskies, especially sherry whiskies. I just noticed there's a little bit of cork in the glass there. The bottle looks fine. So yeah, the palate. Yeah, there's more of that olive oil oiliness on the mouth with regards to the texture and also the taste. There's more granola again. This time I want to say with like a drizzling of honey over it. So in the nose I had the skyr yogurt, but now I'm getting the kind of like a honey flavour. There's a sourdough kind of bread with oats infused into it. I'm kind of thinking of when you go to Subway and you get the honey oats and grain bread. That's what I'm kind of thinking of here, but it's like a sourdough. There's possibly like a bit of nuttiness nearing the end of the palate, kind of going on towards the finish. But yeah, quite a nice palate. Once again, pretty simple, nothing too bold, nothing to blow your socks off, but just almost, I don't want to say traditional, but just kind of, not even generic, just stripped back and just easy going, but really, I don't know, really just pleasant. I think that's the best way to describe it. The finish. Yeah, the finish is medium. There's possibly some cloves there. There's there's walnuts or almonds. Like I said, it's quite nutty at the end of the palate, and that comes into the finish. So possibly like almonds or walnuts or something like that. There's also a little bit of a floral element. In the finish, just at the end of it, as you kind of suck on the the dry saliva. That sounds brilliant. Yeah, a little bit of floralness there as well. So we'll get down to the review. We'll see if it's a whiskey win or a whiskey bin. Like I say, one that I've not been reaching for just because of the location of it, but one that I actually enjoy for a little bit of simplicity and maybe just a little bit of, like, not necessarily switching off, but just sitting down to something that doesn't require a lot of attention. So the 3 ways that I rate my whiskey, the 3 factors, would I buy it again, do I think it's worth it, and would I recommend it? I'm going to start with would I recommend it, and I would, but I wouldn't recommend it to necessarily new drinkers. I would recommend it to drinkers exploring different distilleries, drinkers wanting to try something a little bit more stripped back without the big offensive sherry notes or sherry monsters. So that's who I would recommend it to, but all in all I would recommend it. Do I think it's worth it? I don't think it's worth £70 for a 50cl 17-year-old Benrinnes, just because you can get, I always used to think about the value of it at RRP and whether other shops sell it for this different price or a similar price. But I've been thinking about auctions a lot recently, and just the value you get from them. So the fact that I got this for about £40 on the auction just goes to show you that it really isn't worth £70. No one else was willing to pay more than £40 other than me. So I don't think it's worth it at £70. Would I buy it again? So I think it's worth it at £40 but not £70. Would I buy it again? No, I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't buy it again just because there's other Benrinnes out there and I've got more to try. So by my standards it should be a whiskey bin, but as I am the reviewer and I have overruling decision, it is a whiskey win, even though it's only 1 out of 3, and like I said, it should be a whiskey bin. The reason it's a whiskey win is because it's good, it's a solid whiskey, and although it's not worth it, I only paid £40, so technically it is worth it at that. So I could say it's 2 out of 3. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I would definitely recommend it. I'd recommend trying it, but I wouldn't recommend paying £70 for it because it's definitely not worth that. So that's all I've got on this one. I hope you enjoyed the review. I've been Whiskey Wins. No, I've been Stuart. This has been Whiskey Wins. I'll see you later.